What has happened, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back with my spoiler-free review for the new action film Kill, which is going into wide release this week, and it is my relief and my profound pleasure to tell you that I really enjoyed it. I'll say this. The movie starts off okay, and then it gets pretty good, and I was thinking, all right, if it just stays pretty good, then I'll be satisfied. It feels like, a nice solid buddy movie with some good choreography, with action scenes on a train. But then around the halfway mark, this movie it goes into brutal, passionate, emotional terrain where I was like, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Where there was one scene, once again, no spoilers, but there was one scene where I had sustained chills for about 2 minutes. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And that is pretty goddamn rare. Every once in a while I'll get a little tingle on my neck or a little tingle on my forearms. But there was a scene of such raw, explosive, just ferocious emotional power coupled with just horrific brutality and like people getting disemboweled and their heads getting smashed. I was like, oh my Lord. I can't remember the last time I saw an audience responding like this to an action movie where I could hear people kind of nervously laughing when like things got like incredibly extreme or incredibly violent. There's a wide range of people in the audience having all kinds of emotional experiences watching this movie, but it made it feel like just an incredibly propulsive, exhilarating, adrenaline-fueled ride. And some people might find some of the dialogue to be a little silly at times, but I found the dialogue to be absolutely hilarious. There's some absolutely fantastic lines delivered by the film's villain, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's slow down and talk about what Kill is in the first place, and then I can sing the movie's praises. So here's everything you need to know, ripped straight from the pages of Wikipedia. Kill is a 2023 Indian Hindi language action thriller film written and directed by Nikhil Nagesh Bhatt and produced by Karan Johar, Gunit Monga, Apurva Mehta, and Achin Jain. The film stars Lakshya, Raghav Jual, Ashish Vidyarthi, Harsh Chaya, and Tanya Maniktala. And I apologize for screwing up the pronunciation for all those names. But the reason it's saying 2023 is because the film made its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival last fall. But here's the official premise. When Army Commando Amrit Lakshya finds out his true love Tulika, Tanya Maniktala, is engaged against her will, he boards a new Delhi-bound train in a daring quest to derail the arranged marriage. But when a gang of knife-wielding thieves led by the ruthless Fani, Raghav Jual, begin to terrorize innocent passengers on the train, Amrit takes them on himself in a death-defying kill spree to save those around him, turning what should have been a typical commute into an adrenaline-fueled thrill ride. It might be a thrill ride for the audience, but it's definitely not a thrill ride for the characters involved because, oh my fucking God, like I was expecting blood and, mayhem and that sort of thing. But this movie, it goes all the way to the dark side, giving us like a level of gore and sometimes a level of just like, just brutality that you would typically see like in a hard R or NC-17, Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. But I have no complaints on that front because the gore and the violence and the rage, it's all so well earned. And I must admit, initially over like the first 5 or 10 minutes, I was a little worried that the film might be a little melodramatic or a little sappy or just a little overly romantic. But the love story at the core of this movie is what leads to so much emotion for spilling over to the rest of the dramas. And usually I'm pretty bored by most action movies. I much prefer to watch mixed martial arts. Like this past weekend at UFC 303, the knockout by Alex Pereira over Yuri Prohashka. That was more exciting than like 10 Hollywood action movies put together. But what makes this movie different is that it's not just violence and choreography and like good-looking actors. It has so much, has such a beating heart and has so much emotion, it has so much passion. It gives the film that something extra that allows you to experience something that you ordinarily don't encounter in the world of low-budget action movies. And a big part of that heart and emotion is the fact that the main character, he brings his wingman, his buddy along, who's a fellow commando in the Army. And initially I was thinking, all right, it's just going to be a cool buddy movie. Like I love buddy movies, whether you're talking about Lethal Weapon or Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I mean, there are a million great buddy movies that have been made over the years, or Rush Hour, or whatever the case might be. And I would have had no problem if the film had just stayed kind of in first gear with two guys who have kind of got each other's back, who are very competent, very professional, and very thorough in their methods, just slowly but surely going train car by train car, two standing against many, and just slowly but surely taking out the trash. That would have been fine. But as I said before, when the movie finds that next gear, that extra special gear, and the main character kind of flips the switch, and you really start to see just how much emotion is bottled up inside of him. It's just like he's like a volcano. When he lets out that emotion, like you really feel it, and it just takes you on this incredible emotional roller coaster. And I think also it helps when you're on a train. Everything feels inherently claustrophobic or just inherently cinematic. Like trains are like a gift to cinema. Ever since the earliest days of movies, back like in the late 1890s, people have been fascinated by the combination of trains and movies. And just think about how many classic movies are set on trains. Like Alfred Hitchcock was obsessed with trains. He had one of his best movies, The Lady Vanishes, take place on a train. He has some of the best scenes from North by Northwest and Strangers on a Train take place on a train. And of course, you've got Murder on the Orient Express. I'm talking about the Sidney Lumet version, not that stupid Kenneth Branagh film. Or even fight scenes like from Rush with Love, like one of the best fight scenes in the history of the James Bond franchise, takes place on a goddamn train. Like trains are cinema. And when it comes to the staging of the action in this movie, the filmmakers have fewer options in terms of like, big sweeping camera moves or what angles they can employ. But I feel like sometimes having a few creative handcuffs helps filmmakers become more creative. And there's an interesting thing that happens where initially the camera's a lot of like medium shots and wide shots. Like it's still, really ruthless, has kick-ass choreography, and people are being slammed into different compartments. And it's very satisfying, very solid. But as the movie progresses, the angles get tighter and tighter and tighter until you just feel like there's no escaping the gore and the snarls and the tears and the wailing and all that stuff. Like you're really, like it's an incredibly immersive, grisly experience. On the surface, it might sound somewhat limiting, but it just makes the whole action film so much more intimate, so much more intense, so much more memorable. But in the end, you need a great filmmaker and you need a great star to make the movie work. And I've never seen any movies before by director Nikhil Nagesh Bhatt, but I'll be paying attention to his movies from now on. And the star, Lakshya, if I'm saying his name correctly, he's a total stud. He's tall, he's got presence, he's got just being shredded is not enough. You have to know like how to play to the camera, and you have to know how to what is your best angle, what is your coolest pose, when do you look like the most badass motherfucker that you can possibly be. And Lakshya seems to just understand down to his bones how to look completely, utterly ruthless each time you see him standing down at the end of a train car getting ready to unleash hell on the bad guys. But I know that for a lot of American moviegoers, when people start talking about movies from India, whether they're Hindi language or Telugu language, a lot of Americans are like, is there going to be a bunch of singing and dancing? Like for Americans, that is a tough sell when there's a lot of singing and dancing. Like as great as a movie like RRR was, a lot of people just can't handle seeing like a 4-hour movie with a lot of dancing. But the good news is, Kill is not only very short for a movie from India. The total running time is 1 hour and 55 minutes. But there's no dancing unless you count really cool choreography as dancing, because even though it's really brutal and it's really intense and really grisly, there obviously is, there's choreography involved. There's a dance to it. And when the music kicks in, once again, like the music is a huge part of the overall package where it just really enhances the overall drama. So there are times where you're just going to feel fucking dazzled by the combination of the beautiful music mixed with the disgusting violence. It all just works together, it all dovetails beautifully. But one thing filmmaker Nikhil Nagesh Bhatt seems to understand right down to his bones is when you're making a movie like Kill, let your hero be heroic, let him be a fucking badass, and let your villain be a proper villain. It's something that seems so basic. It's like storytelling 101. But you'd be amazed by how many movies coming out of Hollywood forget that basic concept, where these are simple morality tales, where you have somebody who maybe he goes to the dark side in his methods, like when he's taking somebody's head and smashing it into a toilet bowl repeatedly. I mean, you'd be amazed by just how many weapons he's able to find just on a train, whether it's sinks or toilets or doors or chains or locks or whatever. Like everything's a weapon in his hands, but he gets to be, ruthless but noble and courageous and brave. And the villain, Fani, played by Raghav Juyal, he's so fucking funny. He's so fantastic. He's skinnier and kind of sneakier, and he has to resort to kind of, more like nasty techniques, or he has to resort to more backstabbing and that sort of thing. But he's got 40 or 50 guys on his side, and just watching him just sending his men one after another to their doom, it's just absolutely fucking hilarious seeing how he responds. And whoever wrote I don't have to say whoever wrote the script. The director wrote the script. He gave all the best lines to the villain, and I just feel like in America we have a problem right now where you have a lot of villains who aren't villains. They're just misunderstood victims, and you're supposed to feel sorry for them. No one's going to feel sorry for the character Fani, but they're going to love the character Fani. They're going to think he's he's like a huge part of why this movie works so well. And as long as I'm bashing Hollywood shows and movies, one of my big complaints about a lot of Hollywood, more often shows as opposed to movies, but the heroes are depicted in a way where they're totally invulnerable and they defeat every enemy in a matter of seconds. The hero of this story, he has to pay the blood price for all of his success because he endures more concussions and stab wounds and broken bones and lacerations than you can possibly imagine, but it just makes his many victories all the more satisfying. And as far as my critiques or my criticisms go, I don't really have anything major. I would just say don't let my praise of the action scenes and of the emotion and the drama of the movie allow you to set your expectations too high. In the end, this is just like a good old-fashioned, low-budget genre film that like tells the tale that it is telling really, really well, but it's not trying to reinvent the action genre. It's not going to take your mind to some place that's never been before, but it's just a relief to see that there are filmmakers out there who still recognize what the action genre is supposed to be and just doing a really professional job at executing a story and leaving the audience in a very, very satisfied state. Like when the movie ended, I gave it a few claps, I stood up, I bolted out of there, and the rest of the audience was still kind of sitting there just kind of like, reeling from the experience. But I've said it before on this channel, and I'll say it again, it is a relief to me seeing cool genre films from different parts of the world finding an audience in the United States. This past weekend, there's a science fiction film from India called Kalki 2898 AD, which came out. And we've had a lot of Japanese movies enjoy success recently, and movies like The Boy and the Heron or Godzilla -1. And for me, I'm all for it. Like, if people want to do great action movies or great science fiction films or great horror films or erotic thrillers or any genre under the sun, I am game. I'm a huge fan of just good old-fashioned classic genre storytelling. And it's one of those things that Hollywood historically, over the last 120 years, has done well, and sometimes there's an ebb and flow in things. Hollywood has hot streaks and cold streaks and that sort of thing, and it just feels like right now when it comes to our own kind of homegrown genre and entertainment, a lot of these movies are just stumbling and falling on their faces. And for me, I'm all for a little healthy competition on the international scene. And if American directors can't deliver a satisfying show or movie in this genre, then I will gladly watch more action movies from India, provided that they're on the level of Kill. And of course, because Hollywood is a soulless entity that tries to consume and destroy everything in its path, as soon as this movie started getting good reviews, it was announced that Hollywood was going to do an English language remake. I'm like, the movie's brand new. Like, why are you remaking it? Like I would say a third of the dialogue is in English. Like, there's subtitles for all of it, but a lot of the slang and a lot of the expressions are already in English. Why make a remake when the movie is brand new? Just go see Kill. This kind of short-sighted thinking just drives me fucking crazy. Anytime there's a cool foreign film, the first thing Hollywood says, oh, we got to do an English language remake. It's like, the movie's there. Just enjoy it. Like, anyway, anybody and everybody involved with the remake of Kill, I hope you will feel ashamed of yourselves for your creative bankruptcy. And I'm just going to encourage everybody, see the genuine original, and anybody who loves Kill or anybody in Hollywood who respects what Kill has achieved, I would just say, take inspiration from this cool movie and go off and make your own movie. Call it Death or call it whatever you want to call it. But I just can't stand these soulless remakes just being churned out like a sausage factory. Enjoy a genuine original action movie when it comes along. And if you're fired up by the experience, then go off and make your own movie inspired by the example set by Kill. So what else can I say without giving away any spoilers? I have to be careful because a huge part of my satisfaction with the movie was just how surprising some of the twists and turns were around the halfway mark, where I was like, I cannot fucking believe the movie decided to go there. And so I don't want to oversell it, but I also want people to be, just open to new experiences and open to being kind of shocked and amazed, because I could hear just the audience gasping in horror and in delight at just how exciting and satisfying. Like, revenge is only really satisfying when you feel like real hate and anger towards those who have perpetrated the violence in the first place. So if you have a taste for revenge, or if you have a little bloodlust in you, I'll just say that Kill will satisfy all those baser instincts in very satisfying fashion. So I think that's all I'm going to say about this movie for now. Hope everybody's willing to check it out. And if this movie makes the top 5 or top 10 this coming weekend in the American box office, that will put a big, giant smile on my face. But if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.